setting up your meeting for YouTube Live.
Says that it's streaming.
Okay, we are live. So today is November 9th, 2021. This is the there is a lag, right?
What's up?
Are you looking at the YouTube stream?
Yes.
Yeah, that's you have to mute that. You'll be behind by like 10 or 15 seconds. I would recommend just muting that and just going off of Zoom.
Oh, you hear yourself talk. Yeah, that's a huge distraction. Nice.
Okay, I muted. Okay, now I'm restarting. This is bear with me. Cool learning. So this is the GitLab Enablement Sub-Department release 14.4 retrospectives. This is Chen and the director of the sub-department. So let's go through our agenda first. The first item, what praise do you have for the team? Craig?
Sure. Yep. It was noted in our retro on the sharding group that we had lots of great collaboration per usual. And there were lots of examples of team members jumping in to help each other across sharding and other engineering groups. We have a lot of issues that we've fanned out to the other teams that we need to get done in a identified time frame, and teams have been very responsive, both inbound and outbound, on making sure that those are prioritized. So lots of good praise there. Thanks, everybody. On to DJ, you're up next.
Yeah, so for the distribution team, after we recently completed another UX scorecard evaluation, the cloud native installation is now considered maturity complete. So that's something we want to definitely raise and praise the team for. Job well done. It's been a long time coming.
And now on to me. Actually, on behalf of Fabian, great news of the Geo and the HA reference architecture has been the driven factor to win a big deal. I'm not going to elaborate the deals, but that's a great outcome of from the team's work. Thank you. And Nick, over to you.
Yeah, I just want to give kudos to the team for the excellent collaboration, helping with some recent professional services and support inquiries in our channel. I think we had a couple of engineers specifically called out for the quality of their help by one professional services engineer, but even beyond those couple of people that were called out, just a handful of team members have been jumping in on those, and I think it's really been helping in those customer engagements.
Great. CZ.
It's the first time, so I give the kudos to all the team members. For the global search team, the team worked actively on the performance improvements. For the Elasticsearch search latencies, we improved from our average is about 200 milliseconds before to mostly under 50 milliseconds at the moment. Also, kudos to the memory team that responded to the priority shift to the Redis very quickly, and also moving the project forward very quickly. I'm turning it over to Josh.
Yeah, all amazing contributions. Just wanted to add one more on the efforts Grant, Nick, Nelia, and others have made on Get. We've added support in the last couple of weeks for RDS, Elasticache, a number of Amazon Cloud services, as well as also support for failing over from the primary to secondary via Get as well, which is amazing. So this will help our own testing and efficiency, as well as any wider community members who want to deploy a reference architecture as well.
Very cool. Yeah, glad to hear that significant progress there. Get is getting mature. Alex, you want to verbalize?
Sure. I was just adding that there was a lot of work, a lot of progress made on the wrapping up the primary key migrations, and while we didn't wrap them up entirely in 14.4, 14.5 should be the end of at least what we're working on for now. So that's exciting.
Very cool, very cool. So yeah, kudos to the team. A lot of achievements, just sweet. Yeah. Moving on to next section. What went well? So let's just go one by one. I'm not going to call out you, so please pass to your next speaker. Craig, starting from you.
Yep. So had a lot of nice momentum on sharding during this milestone. So the load balancing for multiple database support was merged. Had really good progress across loose foreign keys. I don't want to blur the lines between milestones. So it's in staging now, but I think that was 14.5. And then all the cross database queries were analyzed, and we created the allow list, which is out. So that's it for sharding. On to DJ.
Yeah, so for the distribution team, this milestone, this is following up on, our GA of the operator. We kind of taken some time to focus inward on. We've had a lot of great deep conversations this release in the team around team direction, focus, and a lot of kind of dives collaboratively into our technical debt. And we've made some great progress on identifying some of our biggest technical debt categories. And the team's done a great job of starting to put together our path forward for some real meaningful impacts to that technical debt. Nick, over to you.
Yeah, we made some really nice progress on a couple key projects. We got a lot of testing done for our secondary proxying feature, as well as single command failover. We also shipped our verification backfill worker that was blocking release of verification for some other data types. We made some good progress on Rails 6. I'm making geo-tracking database use the Rails 6 mini DB support. We also completed the migration of uploads replication to the self-service framework. And that's enabling us to quickly follow up in the next couple milestones with support for verification of uploads, as well as removal of around 1,600 net lines of code last I checked. So always fun to remove legacy code with these types of migrations. And then the last thing I wanted to highlight was that, and this kind of builds on Josh's comment about the great work that quality has been doing on get. We have a scheduled get plus geo pipeline that helped us identify and fix an issue with zero downtime upgrades that we probably wouldn't have caught in the past, or might have taken us much longer to catch. And it's the sort of thing that now runs on a scheduled pipeline that we used to have to schedule like half a day to test a specific zero downtime upgrade from one version to another. Now we just get those running consistently. So that's was really exciting to see. Not exciting to see that there was a bug, but exciting to see that we caught it in the way that we did. And over to C.
We grew the team. We had one new team member for each of the two teams. And 14.4 was the first full release for both John and Roy. John had worked on a lot of great ideas on how to optimize our cluster optimizations, Elasticsearch cluster optimizations. And Roy contributed to the Redis session key related work on the self-managed deployments part. So yeah, they jumped on the project very quickly. Also, we have Yanis joined us as a PM for memory team. So the team grew during the release. The next one that I want to mention is, I already mentioned at the beginning, and the team switched to the Redis work very quickly. And we are making good progress. I hand over to Greg.
Yep. So the database group, during our primary key migration efforts, we created batch background migration, which has some cool features of like even auto tuning the load as the migrations are going. It'll either increase or decrease the batch and sub batch sizes based on how much it got through on the previous one. So it's pretty cool. And another team ended up using it, and they were, if I remember correctly, they were expecting the traditional timeline of a migration to take 2 weeks, and it ended up getting done in a day. And they thought something went wrong because it auto-tuned itself so quickly and was so efficient, the migration, that they thought there was some failure. And it turns out like, nope, it just got it done in a very efficient way. So they were very happy, and it's on our backlog to actually make this generally available, but we are not sadly, focusing on sharding right now. So it's kind of on the back burner, but it's also very important to sharding. So hopefully we can make this more generally available soon.
This is great. Actually, I'm thinking if it worth to make a blog post of this tooling, because that's the first team I heard that external to the database team using the tools provided, right? So this is a good winning story.
Yeah, I think, and Alex, since you're going to be the DRI on this one going forward, I think once it's generally available, it would be a really good blog post, especially that the auto tuning piece, I think would be interesting to folks.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think once it's generally available, that's a great idea.
Cool.
One of us will create an issue to make sure we don't forget actually doing a blog post, because we have an epic for the work.
Cool. Time check, 50 minutes. So let's move on to what didn't go well. Craig, again, you're the first one.
Okay, so we had some lingering issues with the merge request diff commits normalization. So actually migrating the data took a long time. If only we had some batch background process that would have been generally available, that would have sped this up quite a bit. Not available for this when we shipped the MR. And then there was a secondary issue that had to do with an edge case with import. So there's a version mismatch. If you go back far enough on an import, on an export to an import, it will miss the data change, and then there will be some attribution that's been dropped. But there was a fix for it that was already shipped. It's just extra work that we did, and it again speaks loudly to the need for QE, more QE folks in enablement, because had we had them, they probably would have poked at that a bit for us, but we just don't. So we do now. Nick has joined, but he's only part-time. On to DJ before I get myself in trouble.
Yeah, so over in distribution, we had an issue where we had to revert our Grafana upgrade. So this is actually the upgrade had gone in a previous release, but only here in 14.4, we had realized that we had missed some license validation on the newest version of Grafana. And so after reviewing that, we went ahead and reverted the upgrade to give ourselves a little bit more time to do that full evaluation as is needed on a license change.
Yeah, my question is, how was it discovered that the Grafana license changed?
I believe it was brought up internally by other teams at GitLab that noticed it. So I think it was that the change was noticed by other teams in like the wider ecosystem, and then it was noticed that we were running that newer version.
Okay, we actually had an incident last, if you recall, that blocked our shipping. One component license changed to, I forgot the type, so that the delivery team went through a bunch of scratches to temporarily unblock our releases. So I wonder if we have a system here in place to monitor the licenses.
Yeah, so in this case, we do run a license check against it. But in this case, it also was depending on us manually providing the license file in this particular software case. So yeah, we still have to continue to look into ways to get away from that, so that it's, we're scanning what's coming in rather than, having to make a human decision on where the license or on what the license is. We want to have automation figuring that out so that when it changes, the automation picks it up.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything we can improve here? Maybe it's in the next section. Okay, if not, we'll also go back in the next section. Sorry, Nick.
This one's a personal what didn't go well. I accidentally closed the retro issue before the milestone ended, so we didn't get the nice GitLab bot reminder and update of what was finished in the milestone when it ended. So maybe that prevented some retrospective participation. And then I have the next item too. Single command promotion release was potentially delayed by an issue that we uncovered during testing. On the flip side, I think it's also partially what went well that we're doing such thorough testing and doing it with different reference architectures and all that. So one of those bugs that's also a feature, I suppose. And over to CZ.
In the release, we were adding a feature which would allow user to sort the search result by upvote. But the trigram index slowness issue caused some performance issues. We had to revert that feature. That's something didn't go well in the release.
Okay, so it's 2:20. We spent 20 minutes on the first two sections. We scheduled 40 minutes. So let's put more focus. We can retro this format for the next month after today's meeting. So moving on to what can we do to improve, and we will start with Craig.
Yep. So sharding group. We have now a monthly item in our backlog to just continue to look for ways to de-risk and speed up the timeline to deliver decomposition. A couple of things we identified was, again, asking for help on QE as a de-risk strategy, because we know if we don't have them early, there's something we're going to miss. And then the other thing we talked about was speeding up the MR timeline. So having more of a closed loop on the review process. So keeping it within the sharding group and database group, since we all know the sense of urgency, and there's fewer competing projects on those teams. Whereas if we found it out just using roulette, there's going to be some competing priorities. So we're following that. And then subsequently, we've asked for more help through the borrow mechanism. So, and then for number two, where we can improve on the database group is actual participation in retros. It's kind of a tongue-in-cheek comment, but this is the second milestone in a row where we've gotten no feedback on the database retros. And it's not that they don't have feedback, it's just the process isn't really engaging for them. So Alex, you can verbalize your feedback below. We talked about it this morning.
Yeah, we had a little sort of small synchronous retro at the end of our team meeting this morning, and talked a lot about pretty much exclusively on the retro process. So we're working on a few ideas about how we can make the process more meaningful next time and engage people a little bit more and make the feedback a little bit more actionable. And I don't have all of the details about that. And saying it out loud makes it sound like a pretty lofty goal, but I think we'll have something, at least something different, maybe not something better, hopefully next time.
Do we have a solid proposal here. We want to follow up in next meeting how we improve the participation of the retro, or it's just a thought.
Yeah. So one of the things we talked about is we're going to add Discoda support, and we want to start capturing a little bit, capturing more topics as we go through the milestone rather than capturing topics at the end of the milestone, and then schedule a couple of calls throughout the month so that we capture all the time coverage for people to discuss the active relevant topics. And then after we've done that, make sure that we're actually summarizing and documenting action items so that we can actually follow up on them.
Cool, thank you. Nick?
Yeah, hi. Mine is also kind of a meta improvement item. We've also had pretty low retro participation over the last couple months. And I think part of that is maybe just that our team composition has been pretty consistent for a while, and the team is pretty I think has gotten pretty comfortable in the processes and just kind of the work style. That said, I think there's certainly still some things, always some things to uncover and improve on. So one idea is just to maybe change it up a bit, maybe do a little more work on the front end to pick some focus questions that I can put to people, and maybe just kind of change the kind of shift that perspective. I think maybe when you're asking the same questions every month and you've answered those, kind of throwing in a little variety can help change things up and get folks maybe thinking a little more about these sorts of items just outside of the context of the usual questions. So and then yeah, I was kind of checking in with some team members in one-on-ones as well, and one piece of feedback I got was that yeah, even with the low participation, this person still found the check-in useful, just to kind of have this monthly check-in, even if they didn't have anything that they felt they needed to contribute, just knowing that it was there and reminding them in case there was useful. So I think even in that sense, the format is still helpful even when participation might be low, but certainly want to do what we can to increase that.
Any questions or comments for Nick's comment? Because both database team and the geo team had expressed interest to improve the participation of the retros. So any thoughts or suggestions on spot?
I just want to say, I think one other contributing factor that we identified was timeliness too. So like making sure that checking in at the right times, but also understanding when the milestone ended and like what period of time that we're reflecting on. Because so for example, today we came up with a couple of things that we wanted to talk about, but it was like, oh no, wait, this is the 14.4 retro. We can talk about those things in 4 weeks. And it's like, oh, but wait, I actually kind of want to talk about them now. So, you know, I think timeliness can be a really big issue with some of these async retros. And I don't have a solution to necessarily fix that, but the check-ins are certainly a good step.
Cool.
Earlier check-ins.
Yeah, sounds good.
I think the thing we talked about in database group, and Nick kind of mentioned it too, is a way to increase engagement is make it your own, right? You can override those templates, and we're going to do that for the database group so that it asks questions in possibly a different way and actually incorporates the Discoda functionality within GitLab so that we have threaded discussions. So, you know, it's not one size fits all. Everybody has to do it in a way that works for their teams. And I think that's something that we should really call out so everybody doesn't feel like, oh, this is yet another checkbox. Like, no, make it work for your team.
I'm curious. So do you think that, and this is kind of an open question to both Craig, Alex, and Nick, but do you think that these, like the feedback is happening elsewhere and just not in the retro issues? Like, are you hearing it in the team meetings and in one-on-ones, but it's not making it into the retro issue?
Yes, I think so. Historically, with the database group, we've had a couple different sessions where we're like, all right, let's talk about what works and what doesn't. And we've done some overhauls. At one point in time, we actually started doing synchronous retros because they all said, yeah, async doesn't feel good for us. And Alex has got something scheduled to review our processes yet again. And we do iterations on minor changes here and there all the time. So I think it's happening, and maybe, I don't know, maybe the feedback from the team would be like, yeah, we don't need this formal process to do a retro because we constantly tweak what we're doing anyway. It's my impression.
I wonder if another thing is just to have like a link to the async retro always available in those meetings agendas where those things are already happening. Because at least for myself, sometimes it's just, you know, the level of effort to refine the document in the moment.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I've experienced that somewhat too. Like you get some of that feedback in the one-on-one, and maybe, yeah, maybe it's, even if the team member is not commenting directly in the retro issue, you could say, hey, that was a really great idea you just brought up there. Can I just write this in the issue and attach your name to it, or even not if you don't want to have your name associated with it, but at least it's you gathered that feedback either way.
Cool. We have a good ideas, discussions around the participation of retro, and let's move on to the next one. DJ on behalf of Steven.
Yeah, so one of the things that came out of our some of our technical debt review was the fact that we have a bunch of proposals for incorporating different tooling or bringing in tooling into distribution that replaces existing systems. But what a lot of these issues have been kind of blocked on in their proposal phase is that we are missing a lot of documentation of our existing tools in terms of their technical requirements and the knowledge of what those requirements were or what they were over time, as some of our tools have been there in our pipelines for quite some time, has, you know, kind of spread among many people or been sometimes lost, and we need to do a better job of documenting technical requirements and decisions. So, you know, it's something we're doing better now, but we need to definitely go back and, you know, start doing it for pre-existing tooling that we have, in addition to making sure we're doing a really good job of it for anything new we had. But I think the big thing that we need to improve on is getting it in there for previous ones. Chen, you had a comment?
Yeah, I have a question. Are this, you know, the document, the technical requirements or decisions, were they captured somewhere, like in issues or MRs? My understanding, this bullet is about the documentation, so that's a handbook or our product documentation. But I wonder if those things were captured actually in issues and MRs.
Yeah, in some cases, I think they are, but in some of our more deeper tooling proposals, the tooling like predates the team even, and predates a lot of you know, the workflows we follow in development today. So definitely some are not probably captured anywhere that was asynchronous.
Okay. Yeah. What I was thinking is we have a bot. We have a bot for the MRs. I forgot the name. You and both you just used it recently. You know, when you have the bot in the issue, it'll automatically you know, summarize the notes there, right? So Craig probably used that too.
Yeah, Discato, I think, right, is what you're referring to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I wonder if that will help us to, you know, for better documentation.
Some people really like Discato, some don't. We're going to experiment with it on our upcoming retros. we're going to hijack the template and make it our own and include that label. So it always happens and start summarizing our threads. So maybe we can manually alter our next retro and maybe we can share the results then.
Cool. Okay. Is there a solid proposal here or ideas that we can improve, make improvements here to follow up next time, or is it still just the issue just came up? We are still brainstorming what we can do.
So we're currently collecting all of these proposal issues. So like I said, the kind of the impetus for this is that we have all these new proposal issues, but they're blocked on the lack of existing requirements. So we're collecting all of these proposal issues into an epic as our first step, and then we'll in that epic we're going to start proposing what to do next. But one of the big things that came out of it is probably there'll be some new issues logged about specific systems needing these technical requirements documented.
Sounds good. Thank you. CZ.
Yeah, one improvement that we need to make is about capacity planning. In the release, we put all the memory team members on the Redis related work, but in the middle we found it was not very efficient to put the whole team on because we had some blocker issues that some team members were working on it while other team members were blocked. So we ended up switched some of the teams to work on something else. I think for us in the future, when we do the project planning, it looks like it's important for us to try to identify the possible blockers early on so that we can plan ahead accordingly.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Josh and Dylan, maybe not Dylan, but Josh, maybe here is something we may retro with other the infrastructure group, because initially the Redis, if we recall, the requirements for the setting up the teams, it required a full backend team, but after this round of the work, we discovered that we threw in the whole memory team in this Redis work, but the team feels like it's over budgeted. So I think the evaluation of the work on the Redis side was there is room to improve there. And then also I think there is a question moving forward, how the Redis work look like.
Yeah, no, I think it's good to look back around how we estimate what's left in there. I think it's a great outcome, though, personally, that we now have a better idea of how much Redis work there is, right? So we can better size it going forward. Yeah, it was a big shift that may have been an overcorrection, it seems like. So let's double click there and see if we can do a detailed retro and do better next time.
Yeah.
I think the also good part of this for us. First, we kind of have idea what the future work could be and how much capacity we want to plan on it. The other is we have a team in the development department that have certain knowledge about the Redis. If there's something come up, I think we can represent the development department to speak for it or to work on it from our side.
Yeah, so I think we should agree. Let's figure out what the right best method is, a working group or a full team with a category attached to it. Like let's figure out the right way to handle Redis going forward is. And then we can make sure we right size our investment as well based on what we think the need is. I would love to also learn more about what we think the how much work there is to get this back to be scalable. So I think in some cases we're looking at some improvements and it was not significant. So I'd love to learn more about kind of where we're at, sort of a state of Redis, if you will, similar to what the database group is doing this in the database. But yeah, this is a great topic to dig into, and will inform probably both process potentially, and then also how we think we should staff Redis from the development department going forward.
Yeah, cool. I think that's the end of our agenda items. There are several follow-up actions. Please double check if that's captured correctly or is a non-issue. Just to go through that. And this is our retrospective for 14.4. Anything else we didn't cover? Going once, twice. We are right about time.